You got Bird 365 here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. We got 300 and change of you streaming right now. Thank you very much for that. Hit the like button because Ed Kracz is on the show. Are you kidding me? Who doesn't love Ed Kracz? Hit that like button right here, right now. All right, Ed. Johnny Mac's gonna rejoin us here in just a second, but I put this to both John and to Mike Gill earlier, and we've had three different answers. Three scenarios for the Eagles this Sunday against the Giants. Number one, you can play everybody because you need to get back on the right course. You need to play as close to 2022 Eagles football as you can. Haven't done it this year. And even if it's against the Giants, a lesser light team, you just got to do it because you need it. Or you can take the middle of the road. We're out to win. We're out to get a W until we know the Cowboys are winning. And then, yeah, we're pulling in the oars and we're protecting people and giving rest and not risking injury if we can't catch the Cowboys. Or, no, give them a week off. Give everybody a week off. The chances are of Ed Kratz's favorite player, Sam Howell, beating the Dallas Cowboys is about yo big. So forget it. Just pull them all. Get ready. Everybody on the sidelines. Whatever. Those are the three scenarios, and me, John, and Mike all landed on different ones. You are the tiebreaker, Ed Kracz. Sit them all. Sit them until you know the Cowboys win, or play them all because you need to build up some momentum going into the playoffs. How you handling it if you're Nick Sirianni?
Well, I'm not sitting them all. I mean, imagine if my boy Sam Howell does go out and beats the Cowboys, who, by the way, are 3-5 on the road.
Yeah. By the way, and I apologize. I'm interrupting a lot today. John, would you like if he starts by sitting them all and you look up the scoreboard and it's 17-14, Washington, Middleton, then you put your guys in. No, would you go there, Johnny Mac?
No, you can't do that. That's why I start everybody. I scoreboard watch, and if it's 21-0 Cowboys, I say, all right, hey, Jalen, thanks. Come on, sit here. Let me take a look at Marcus Mariota. No, you can't not start people and then put them in the game. No, absolutely not.
Just checking on that. I agree.
Yeah, that's why I'm not doing it. What happens if, Washington's up 17-0 at halftime? That won't happen. But, what if it's a close game and, you didn't play anybody? You imagine that. You imagine the outcry.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Everybody and the Cowboys lose.
Yeah.
So you can't do that. I mean, I think the smart play is plan B, like you said, is you play your guys, you scoreboard watch. If the Cowboys are up 17-0 at halftime, then you pull your starters and, hello, Marcus Mariota, try to give your guys a little bit of a break. I would have liked to have seen the thing just be a complete bye. We know how poor that turf is in Meadowlands. You could be risking some injury on that turf with some of your key reserves, but this is where the Eagles are. And I wouldn't play them the whole game if that game is a blowout in Washington and the Cowboys are winning. I would pull them. What happens if the Giants beat them with your starters? There's already, I think, some confidence issues inside that locker room, whether the players say it or not, and they won't say it, but there has to be some confidence issues after the way they kind of limped through December.
So you're trying to mask the fact that this team is dead in the water? By sitting your starters, that's what you're suggesting?
I think that, what's going to give you the confidence that you're going to play better in the final game of the season than you have all year, and you're going to beat the Giants 42-10? That would be a nice confidence boost, but I just don't see that happening. This team has been flawed all year, and I think that could backfire if you play everybody and you end up winning 31-30 or, it's a real close game. The first meeting between these two teams kind of was, right? It went down to
last play.
Kelly Ringo interception in the end zone. So, I don't know. I don't think playing them all and winning a close game is going to help them going into the playoffs.
All right, Ed. Yesterday was A.J. Brown Day. You weren't there because you had coaching duties. By the way, you got your coaching gear on. I like that.
Yeah. Just wore it last night. Figured I'd throw it on this morning before.
Is that P for Philadelphia Eagles? What is that P there?
Penridge High School.
Okay. Penridge High School Wrestling. Dominant program because of Ed Kracz. I'm going to give him credit for that. But nonetheless, you saw all AJ, and I had a different take than most people. What was the most important part of that for you? Do you think, AJ? A lot of people are saying, "Oh, a press conference that's going to turn it around for the Eagles. I think that's silly. But I think people missed. They buried the lead. Not everybody, but I think they buried the lead.
Well, I think you were the one that wrote about it, and that was the fact that him and Jalen Hurts kind of went off script at the end of the Seahawks game.
Am I missing something? Why is that not a bigger deal? Maybe I'm wrong. Why is that not a bigger deal?
Well, I think it is a big deal. That was a pretty big takeaway from that, is that, it almost looks like Sirianni isn't in control of what's going on the field if he lets his 2-star players kind of go off script and try to take a deep shot. It leads to an interception. Meanwhile, you have Kenny Gainwell sitting off to your left, and we've rehashed this before, but you could have dumped it to him. Maybe he gains 20 yards and gets out of bounds, closer to field goal range. But, Hurts and Brown were intent on taking that deep shot, and it wasn't the right call. And Nick tries to cover up for it. And, he sounded foolish when he said it, that, well, maybe we thought we would get a pass interference there. That, that right there was not a very wise thing to say. And now we know why, because he was just covering up for Brown and Hurts going rogue.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It shocked me. And, I guess because there were so many other issues about people, what's wrong with AJ? What's he complaining about?
Yeah.
To me, and he said, throw him part of it is there is the assumption that anytime a receiver is complaining or seen complaining, they're complaining about targets. There's like a million other reasons they could be complaining, but everybody boils it down to targets. Now, AJ always wants the football, and he said it. If you throw it to me 105 times, I want it 106. Is that a bad thing when a great player like that wants the football?
No, you don't want. Remember when Mac Hollins was here and he was saying, about he wanted to play special teams. He wanted to be known as a special teams guy, not really a receiver. I mean, that's not what you want. I mean, that's the opposite of what AJ Brown is. Yeah, you want that in your receiver. And, it was nice to hear him clear that up, because that is the assumption a lot of people make when they see them on the sidelines arguing. It's about, hey, throw me the ball. And Keyshawn Johnson, back when he said, just throw me the damn ball. I mean, that was kind of the perception that we had of receivers, is they want the football, and they do, but doesn't mean they're on the sideline complaining about it when the cameras come zooming in. I thought it was AJ Brown's very good.
Yes.
When he talks, I mean, he's about as honest as he can be, in my opinion. And he really cleared the air. I mean, he talked for almost 15 minutes yesterday, right?
Yeah,
I mean, he was, and he said a lot of good things. And that's, just one of many good things he said is, hey, I'm not complaining about, throw me the ball when I'm on the sidelines, but I want the ball, and that's fine.
All these niceties about AJ Brown, I feel I need to balance the scale. He's the best wide receiver the Eagles have ever had. All apologies to Mike Quick and Terrell Owens and anyone else. I think AJ Brown's seasons have been the best ever in Eagles history. And he is a straight shooter and a good dude. And he doesn't lie, and he doesn't cover anybody else's butt, which is something he should be applauded for. His attitude of, I want the ball. I want it more. Forget 105, 106. Bring it to me. Like that, too. You got to be able to control your behavior. Going off on a sideline doesn't work. Refusing to talk after the fact doesn't work. Making your teammates that you then have to apologize to because they've got to answer questions about you because you won't answer your own questions. Does his greatness give him a pass on that other stuff? Is that what I guess I'm asking both of you guys?
Yeah, I think, what's he, 27 years old? I mean, he's still fairly young, right? I mean, I give him a pass. I thought it was pretty big that he apologized, and I was thinking to myself, would I want an apology if I was a player? Would I care that much that the guy's not talking and I have to answer a couple of questions about him? Probably not. It wouldn't matter to me if he apologized or not, because I know the AJ Brown. I'm in that locker room every day, and I'm speaking as a player now. I don't need to hear him say I'm sorry for that, and yet he did take it upon himself to say I'm sorry, and I give him credit for that. And you could say, well, hey, he should talk after every game. Listen, a lot of players don't talk after games or in the locker room. Jason Peters never talked to us until after a game. We're starting to see Fletcher Cox not talk to us, not even after a game. So players do this. more often than we see or realize. And I don't fault AJ for that at all. He's still kind of growing into a role as a captain, as a leader, and I give him credit for apologizing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just throwing in, Jody. I mean, this is one of the best players the Eagles have ever had. Ed and I do that top 25 list every year coming into the season, after the season. I had AJ number 2 behind Lane Johnson on the best 25 Eagles, the best pure football players. Right now, I have him number 1. He's the best pure football player on the Eagles. We had Marcus Hayes on the show, and AJ wanted to talk to Marcus, by the way, yesterday. But we had Marcus on the show yesterday, and he called him the best player since Reggie White in Philadelphia Eagles history. And I started thinking, he might be. Brian Dawkins, maybe. They don't have players like this. So yeah, if you have to put up with some idiosyncrasies, whatever you want to call it, whatever adjective you want to use, yeah, put up with it. This is a team that didn't have a 600-yard receiver for 2 consecutive years.
Yeah.
Now you got a guy cracking 1,400 for 2 consecutive years. Deal with it. If you're the Eagles, that's how I feel, Ed.
I don't disagree with that.
Absolutely. I mean, his numbers, you mentioned the 1,400. He could go over 1,500 this Sunday. Had 1,496 last year. He's 50 yards away from, topping that. I think he gets it. 42 career touchdowns, 5 years playing in the league. I mean, he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory here. And you're right. You put up with whatever comes along with that. And really, it's not that much, to be honest.
All right, Eddie Kracz, I'll take you down a road that John and I have been down for the last couple of days, that we're both kind of chagrined that that's the fact. We deal with hypotheticals all the time. Maybe I deal with them more than anybody else because that's what I enjoy doing. And I think a percentage of fans like it. Others hate it with a passion. How bad is it going to have to get for Nick Sirianni to lose his job?
Well, I listen, to me, when you see a head coach like Doug Peterson get fired after 3 years, you have to wonder, like, are Lurie and Roseman going to be happy with the way this season ended? I would think not, obviously. So I think Sirianni probably has to come to them with some kind of an idea of how to turn this thing around in the offseason, because they're not going to go to the Super Bowl this year. And, we're seeing how hard it is to get back. But I think he has to come up with an idea of how to set things right. And if that means, cleaning house with your coaching staff, already they're going to go in search of a defensive coordinator. But I think he's probably got another year anyway to turn this thing around. But if things don't get turned around next year, he
you think, give me the percentage chance he gets fired this offseason.
Maybe 2%. Very small percentage. Maybe even lower than that. I think just based on what he's done, he's the only coach to have taken this team in his first 3 years on the job to the playoffs. I mean, there's something to be said for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, had the Eagles won 2 games, had they been 11-5, what are they, 11-5 right now? Yeah. Had they been 11-5, I mean, that's a good record. It's just how they got here after being 10-1. If they would have been, if they would have lost a couple early and then won some and then lost another game here or there, that'd probably be okay. But it's just the way things have kind of gone off the rails here. And now he's faced with adversity, and we'll see if he can turn it around. But I think, he'll be back next year for sure. But I think the leash is a little bit shorter.
Yeah, and I still think, here's how I describe it, Ed. I still think it's 0% that the Eagles would want to fire Nick Sirianni. However, I'm like you. I got to place it at a little bit that he doesn't return, simply because we went through the Doug Peterson era. And if Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman go to Nick and say, all right, you got to gut this defensive coaching staff, because we know when you don't meet expectations here, there are scapegoats. And we already had one. Sean Desai still in the building, but he's a lame duck. He's going to be gone. If he says, we're going to gut the defensive coaching staff and we're going to pick the new defensive coaching staff, and Nick doesn't get to approve it or have his say over it, and then he gets angry over that, I think that's the way it can go sideways. But the Eagles are not going to say, we're going to fire Nick Sirianni.
Right. And that's what upset Doug Peterson was.
Yes.
He wasn't given that power to pick his staff. And listen, I think Nick would be okay with it. I really do. I think, okay, bring in who you want and we'll make it work. And you have to be careful too, because, the Eagles are playing a lot of young guys in this system with DK McDonald as your DB coach. You have Ringo, Ricks, Brown. They're all, playing within the system. So you have to be careful, who you're going to clean house, who you're going to kick out. The linebacker play, is that personnel or is that, DK Elliott? The linebackers are just subpar. I mean, personnel wise. So yeah, you'll probably get rid of some guys, but you have to be careful who you get rid of because this defense is kind of growing with the young guys. And I think you're going to see even more of Kelly Ringo and Eli Ricks next year. If the Eagles choose or try to move on from a James Bradbury, I doubt they move on from Slay, but who knows? But I think you're going to see more young guys. So do you want a new guy coming in to coach these guys in his way of doing things, or do you want to keep growing with what you have on the staff and with these young players?
No, here's the reason why I don't think it'll happen the way John's putting it out there. Hypothetically, is all John's saying. He moved on from Denard Wilson, if you believe it. And we asked Marcus about this earlier this week. He thinks it was, Sirianni just said, no, Denard, since I'm not going to make it a defense coordinator, I'm going to let you go. And he did. He threw Sean Desai under the bus. Really? This guy needs to be at 8-1. He took away third down responsibilities from him. Doug's problem was he was overly loyal. Once you became part of Doug's inner circle, God forbid anyone tell him to change anybody in his inner circle. I don't get that feeling from Sirianni. I don't think he's the kind of guy who's going to die on that hill for somebody else.
I think he'd die on the hill for Kevin Patullo. I think he'd die on the hill for certain guys.
Who's the defensive coach he'd die on the hill for this year, John?
No, probably not. Probably
okay,
wouldn't.
there you go.
That's but there are guys.
Maybe Tracy Rocker. Maybe Tracy Rocker. Maybe he dies.
Tracy.
I think he died on the hill for Michael Clay last year when the special teams was under fire. He refused to move on from Mike Clay. I mean, he kind of died on that hill.
There are certain guys he would protect and certain guys he probably wouldn't. And most of them he wouldn't are on the defensive side. I think that's fair to say. But, anytime you start, what if you want to call it meddling, we've had this discussion because we went through it with Doug Peterson, and Howie and Jeffrey are going to be involved when the expectations aren't met. And obviously the expectations aren't met, but I look at this team moving forward. Here's what I say, Ed. Despite all the talk about the offense, and we know the headlines, still a pretty good offense. Top 10 in most major categories. Number 2 in third down offense. Number 1 in fourth down offense. 8th overall, 7th in points. Still pretty good. You can win with that. Maybe the style points aren't there all the time, but you can win with it. They can't win with this defense. My question is, does the return of Darius Slay, whenever that is, and that means less Ringo, less Ricks, who are young players getting better, but they're probably not ready right now. Zach Cunningham gets back. That means less Shaq Leonard, less Ben Van Sumeren. Avonte Maddox, who played terribly last week, and he's banged up again. But if he starts to get the rust off, are those 3 personnel changes enough to get the Eagles from bottom 5 defense to okay? Because that, I think, is the upside. It's just okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think this defense, is what it is. And, I don't think it was really good when those guys played. I mean, their pass defense has been lacking all season long. And, was that Sean Desai's fault? I mean, Sirianni seemed to think it was, and Matt Patricia's kind of been a bit of a disaster himself, right? They've given up 68 points in the second half of the last 3 games. They've had leads at halftime in these last 3 games, and they've given up 68 points in the second half. I mean, I don't think Maddox was on the field for one of those games, and I don't think these guys are going to help. I mean, I think this defense is what it is. I think it's a little worn out maybe. Up front, you're playing, Brandon Graham probably more than he should be playing out of necessity. Fletcher Cox, he's had some good games, but he's been a little inconsistent these last couple of weeks. I think it's just a worn-out defense, and I don't think Slay at 33 now or 32, however old
just turned 33 this week.
33. I mean, I don't think he's going to be that much of a difference maker. We saw him when he was in there, and he played okay, about the same as he played last year, which was pretty good. But he's not going to make a difference. Maddox, we saw, didn't make a difference. Zach Cunningham was a guy they signed in the summer. I mean, he's a stopgap guy. Yeah, he hits and he tackles and this and that, but he's not a top flight linebacker. He is what he is at this point in his career. The Eagles need to go out and find somebody that they can bring in and man these positions that are better than what they have.
Right, but that's 2024, and we got to get through 2023 first.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so here's the question after you two guys, because you could answer. You're there. I'm not. Any defensive players over the last several weeks off the record say, yeah, what was done to Sean Desai is just flat out wrong. We suck. We're not playing. We're not getting it done. It wasn't Sean's fault. Why they did them. Is there any disagreement or remorse that they cost their coach's job? And does it continue to be there because they've gone down this unconventional road of, hey, you're still the defensive coordinator in name only, and you can eat all the sandwiches you want up with Ed Kracz in the press box during halftime, but you're not actually going to be calling any plays here, big guy. I just think they've handled this thing so wrong across the board. Do any of the guys on the defense feel that way?
Well, I would say before Ed, off the record. So
I'm not asking you to name names, but I'm just asking.
But I would say
guys feel that way.
I would point to AJ Brown, which has nothing to do with the defense and what AJ said yesterday. None of the coaches have cleats on. I would say I would lean on that. I don't think it's Sean Desai's fault. My personal, they're limited defensively. Personnel-wise, they're limited, as Ed pointed out. They're just not good on defense. And they're not going to be good with Sean Desai or Matt Patricia, or if you want to fire Matt Patricia this week and let DK McDonald call the plays, or you want to bring somebody in, or Vic Fangio gets fired in Miami, you want to bring him in, they're still going to be bad. That would be my take on it.
Yeah, I agree. You can't, listen, I've talked to some of the defensive players, and they hate to see Sean Desai lose his job. They like Sean Desai. I think he's a good guy. Was he a little inexperienced? Did they have some lack of trust in what he was asking them to do? I think so. But, it's water under the bridge at this point. You have to move on with Patricia. And, he's got this resume that so far just hasn't matched up with what we've seen these last 3 games that he's been in charge with. And, the players have to live with that, because like AJ said, it's the players that have to go out and execute, and the players weren't doing that. And, it reaches a point where, like BG's too old, I think. He's not going to come back. And Fletch, I'm not sure he's going to come back. So, you have to start remaking this defense a little bit, add some speed, add some youth. And, I think Desai was kind of the victim of that. And it was curious to hear Patricia, when he spoke to us earlier this week, say that he's got to do a better job in series. These long drives that the Cardinals were going on, he wasn't quick enough to make adjustments, which is surprising that he's been in this league for so long. He didn't make adjustments. So I'm thinking, well, what's Sean Desai doing up in the press box? Isn't he supposed to be helping you in the headset, saying, hey, we got to try this because whatever you're doing isn't working? What is his role exactly? I don't really think he has a role.
No,
he's just kind of the figurehead, and he's going to be gone. And I haven't even seen him we don't get to watch a lot of practices during the week, but I haven't even seen him the last couple of weeks on the field.
Well, I think at Sean's defense, we were all excited to see the omelet guy, Ed. So he was probably excited as well.
Yeah.
Didn't get up to the window early enough to see Sean Desai come out and then disappear again. Shame on you, omelet men. Do your job. Don't be eating omelets. It just they've so mishandled this. It's
Yeah, like I said,
should have fired him. He shouldn't be there. But
right. I mean,
if you
Patricia's
don't
talking
believe
about
me,
not making adjustments, and I'm like, well, that's what the size there. Aren't you guys supposed to be
Yeah.
collaborating? And this shouldn't happen. That you're still calling the same stuff on this long drive that you can't stop. What's Sean doing? Maybe he's at the omelet bar. Maybe we need to do a better job looking around when we're in line at the omelet bar. Maybe Sean's next to us.
I know DeCecco would have told us if it was there, because he's posted up. He's posted up at the omelet bar at Kracz.
All right, so Ed Kracz, I need one last question. I know we gotta let you go. Give me Sam Howell's numbers. Give me good news. Come on, jump on that head. You've been a Sam Howell guy all year. You've been taking. I had to bend over backwards and tell. He's better than I thought. How Ed Kracz was right. Sam can play a little bit, just a little bit. That's all it is. But tell me, he's got one more game in him this week against the Cowboys, Eddie.
No, I don't think so. I think the Cowboys smell blood in the water, and they're going to find a way to beat Sam Howell down. They're going to sack him a few times. Hey, listen, that team is not very good, the Commanders. They didn't get a single player on the Pro Bowl team. And I know there's snubs and this and that, and the Pro Bowl doesn't mean as much. It still means a lot to the guys. But Washington didn't even have a Pro Bowl player. So, you want to pin it on Sam Howell. That team just needs to be rebuilt, man. They're just not.
And they will. Josh Harris will, new coach, probably a new quarterback. They're gonna rebuild the whole thing. At Kracz E on X, Twitter, SI.com/NFL/Eagles. Make sure you read them every day there. All right. We just talked about Sean Desai. So long term, does that hurt Nick Sirianni with potential or the Eagles organization? In other words, do other potential defensive coordinators look at this and say, well, you're not even going to give this guy a season? Does that affect their ability to recruit others, or you just put an extra zero on the paycheck?
I don't think it hurts. Listen, there's only 32 defensive coordinators in the NFL, and if you're a position coach, you're going to want your shot, and you're going to be egotistical enough to think, hey, I'm better than Sean Desai. I'm going to come in and I'm going to last. I'm going to be the guy that's going to turn this thing around. I mean, the league's full of those guys. So I don't think it hurts at all. And listen, the track record isn't all that bad. You had Jonathan Gannon here who turned that job into a head coaching position. So, it's not a terrible spot. Yeah, okay, maybe they screwed up on hiring Desai, and I know there's a lot of talk that he came along late in the hiring process. The Eagles didn't hire their DC until a lot of guys were off the market. But I don't think a coach looking at this job from the outside, an assistant coach, is going to say, hey, I don't want to go there because they're not going to give me any time. No, I don't think it's going to work like that.
Wow, that's a great question, John. And now you got me thinking. I'm going to have to come up with the perfect guy who could get a defensive coordinator position elsewhere, or is already in a defensive coordinator position where he is, but the Eagles say that they can't talk to him. Won't I? That's a good debatable point. I'm going to have to give some thought. I hadn't even thought about that. I'm going to have to give some thought to that. Good answer by you, Ed Kracz, which is always what we get when we punch Ed Kracz up. Good answers. The Penn Grove Monster. Ed Kracz here with us on Birds 365.
Penn Ridge.
Did I say Penn Grove?
Yeah, Penn Ridge.
Where the hell is Penn Ridge?
Bucks County, just outside of Doylestown.
Penn Grove is South Jersey, right? Over here in South Jersey.
You have to talk to Ruben about that. Ruben knows every high school in the tri-state area.
Really?
I'm not as well versed on the
Penn Ridge in Bucks County. I'm sorry, I misidentified the killers.
No problem.
Ed Kracz coaches. Coach, thanks for coming on with us. We'll talk to you during the playoff run.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, guys.
Eddie Kracz, Sports Illustrated, here with us on Birds 365. All right, Johnny Mac coming back. We got one more segment to go. Don't even think about streaming out.